DJ Peterson, and this is The Journey is Real. We talk to real people with real passions who share a real portion of their hearts. We're here for part 2 with the cosplay panel. They had such good information, I wanted to go ahead and do a second one. So my guests today are Paul T. Watson from Star Trek Pathfinder, Will Deinbeck from Will the Alien, and Cassie LaGrand from Mermaid Cosplay. Thank you guys for joining me again for take 2. I really appreciate it. Last time we touched on where your journey started and what's keeping you there now. Now I just kind of want to get to the meat of it and the fun part of it. Your first cosplay, you know, when you first walked in on that first one, I know Cassie touched on it a little bit, just maybe not as a cosplay person, but just as going to your first Comic-Con. What was that like? Cassie.
It was definitely interesting because I wasn't quite sure. Like, I had seen Comic-Con on like Big Bang Theory, and that was about all I'd ever seen of Comic-Con was Big Bang Theory. And so I was like, oh, this should be pretty cool. And so it was me and my mom and my dad, and we walked in not really knowing what to expect, and it was crazy because it wasn't just the part of all the booths set up. That was also crazy, all the vendors and how much different variety of stuff. I mean, there was people that sold headbands, there was people that sold clothes, there was people that sold comic books and swords and lightsabers,
toys and everything, the pops and everything.
It's like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of stuff here. And then on top of that, it's all the cosplays. Like, I saw so many crazy, amazing cosplays. And like I said, I went to the cosplay contest, and it was just insane, the amount of stuff that people can make. And I was like, oh my Lord, like, it was a lot to take in. And we only went one day. Like, I didn't even do 3 days because we weren't sure what it was going to be, if we would even need 3 days. And so I only went like on a Saturday. And so it was packed. It was crazy. I was like, oh my Lord, I didn't even realize these things got this busy. And from that moment on is when I noticed that you have to take the 3 days, if not 3, at least 2. And because it's a lot to take in.
Paul, what was your first cosplay or first Comic-Con? Like, not necessarily cosplay, but your first Comic-Con.
The first Comic-Con that I think, well, in recent years was, I think it was Dallas Fan Days, or it was actually called the Dallas Comic Book Show. Walked in, and first thing I noticed, people want to take pictures with you, and I that was great. I didn't have that back in the day in the early 70s when I went to my first convention there. I had a guy come up to me. I was in what I thought was kind of a spare Star Trek uniform. It was a red shirt. This guy comes up. He has a Kirk gold uniform on and a horse head. Didn't talk. His handler said, he's got to get a picture. And I started asking questions. She goes, just don't ask, just take the picture. and that was just, that was hilarious. I got the biggest kick out of that. And I spent most of the rest of the day talking to 2 actresses that one of them was from Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, Erin Gray, and Ann Lockhart from Battlestar Galactica. And I'd say they weren't busy, and we probably spent an hour and a half chit-chatting and had lunch together, and I just got more engaged in the whole cosplay acting community. And
right.
But yeah, I really think the reaction you get when you walk in the door from people is as a attendee and not as a cosplayer is what really fueled me to keep going in it.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize when you go to Comic-Cons, you get to meet these people. LeVar Burton, Denise Crosby, the doctors from Doctor Who, the Harry Potter people. You actually get to physically meet these people, and it is
like Paul just kind of touched on. I cannot remember his name for the life of me. The guy that played the evil like cop in Terminator, the one that Arnold Schwarzenegger fights. I cannot remember his name, but he was at that first Comic-Con I went to, and he had no line. Nobody was there, and I felt so bad. And so I walked up to his table and started talking to him, and he held my hand and talked to me for at least 30 minutes, just holding my hand, talking to me. And I was like, this is actually pretty cool. Like, I've only ever seen you in Terminator, but I'll sit here and talk to you for 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's just wild. And then if they're walking around the con, like Longview Comic Con, they were just walking around, and I would get to talk to them, and they're real people.
Yeah.
But it's just, what they've done is just mind blowing. Like the Longview Comic Con had the little boy, but he obviously wasn't a little boy anymore from Terminator.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And the red Power Ranger was there, Justin something. Anyway, there was a whole bunch of them. And they were just neat people to talk to. Sorry to cut you off, Paul. Back to you. What was, if you want to keep going?
Oh, to me?
Yeah.
Oh, well, the last, I think it was 2000, it was the 2019, Will, was it 2019 All-Con. I got to talk with Herbert Jefferson Jr., who played Boomer from the original Battlestar Galactica series, and also got to talk to Terry, I think it's Terry Carter, who played Colonel Ty. Now, he was so engaging, and our conversation almost put me in tears. I remember going back to, I think it was, I went back to Tracy Coco's table and told her, and she's from Star Trek The Next Generation, and she said, yeah, he's quite a moving guy. I mean, just, I told the guy, I said, you were like my hero as a kid. I mean, how to be a really calm, collected leader, and that's the kind of stuff that really keeps me going back, is being able to be both a fan and be both a participant and be both the cosplayer. You kind of get the whole package in one event.
Okay, Will, what about you? What was your first Comic-Con like?
Let's say it was about 6 years ago, and that was Fan Expo, and for some reason we got tickets for it, and my daughter was pumped, and so she started making her own costume. It was a gender bent version of a character from the Magic card game. I don't remember the character's name. And I was like, okay, I've got some props from Alien film. So I went as a Colonial Marine. So I went ahead and ordered some combat boots, camo pants for one day. And the second day, I said, well, I'm going to be a Weyland-Yutani scientist. So I ordered a lab coat and a patch. And before I knew it, I was costuming, if you will. I know you couldn't see I was quoting that. I was throwing things together. And so we went, and it was overwhelming. I mean, you actually get dizzy because it's so packed. Everyone's in costume, and you're like, I know who that is. I know who that is. I know who that is. You're like Cassie said, you're blown away by the amount of effort some of these people put into things. And like I said earlier, at first I thought these people were crazy, but they're my kind of crazy. I found that this is my family. And Cassie mentioned earlier when she said she went as a chorus bride, she was worried would anybody recognize her. Well, my daughter, she was worried would somebody recognize her. And two people did, but those two people made her day, because she put all this effort in her costume and her makeup, and just two people. She said, "Oh my God, you're so and so." She said, "Yes." Biggest smile on her face, and so that was my first experience. That she had such a blast,
Well, mine was actually in Arlington. From the author portion of me, that's why I went with my sister, and we did like the books and the authors section of it. And it was phenomenal. I loved it. And like I said, you end up with a Comic-Con hangover about the next morning or that night. You just crash. But I ran across you guys, all three of you, in the same one. And that was in the Kilgore Weekend.
Right.
And I noticed that, Cassie, you were Rapunzel first and then Princess Leia second.
Yes.
Will, you actually had two. You did like the alien, three. You did like the little alien coming out of your chest.
Yeah, the chest burster.
And then you did the Jedi.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you were Will from Star Trek Pathfinder.
Yep.
And then, Paul, you were Star Trek Pathfinder. And you actually came to me and said, hey, would you like to try this on? And that's when I first started with you guys. And I had so much fun. And it has been a blast ever since. And like you guys are saying, when we went into, which Comic-Con was it when we went into as a team? And
that was Arlington, where we traipsed all across the campus for the on-location photo shoots. Yeah, that was Arlington.
That was a blast.
Yeah, and then there's a couple of them that we went into as like a group, and people just saw us as a cluster. I'm like, I want my picture taken with you. I want my picture taken with you.
Fan days.
Yeah, that's what it was. But the cool thing about Star Trek Pathfinder is that we actually take a lot of the pictures at the Comic-Cons. Now, of course, we haven't lately because of what's been going on. So we're taking them separate and sending them to Paul so Paul can do his little director thing that he does and makes them all cool. And if you haven't had a chance to check these things out, you really need to, because the storyline will have you sitting on the edge of your seat. Again, you can find that at Facebook under at STPATHFINDER. So they're really cool. But how can people find you again before, because we kind of got cut off on the end of the last one. Paul, you're on two places. You're not just at the ST Pathfinder. You actually have
I'm also Paul T. Watson. But on the when you go to Star Trek Pathfinder on Facebook, go to the photo albums, and all of the meme-episodes are organized there. I mean, we've got a total of about 7 out there. 2 of them are shorts, which would be our Challenger prologue, Starship Challenger, and a flashback, which was actually Will and I's first production together, which I'm really proud of. We've been improving the photo quality since then, but so that's the flashback, and then we have meme-episodes 1 through 5, which has been most of the adventures with our core team. It's starting from Space Dock to where we're at right now, which is edge of your seat stuff. But Will, I tell you that my favorite memory is we were shooting in your garage, and I tripped over some broom and fell down. The camera caught it, and that was actually one of the best pictures for the plasma explosion scene. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was great.
Yeah, we started.
Will has directed most of these when we're all together.
Now, before we go any further, meme-episode is how I describe to people as kind of like a live action storyboard. So these are like
a comic book. Comic book.
But they're like real pictures, and that kind of makes a twist to it. It's not drawn; they're actual real pictures.
Yeah, we have all
of reality.
All the cosplayers, actors are taken behind a green screen or either on location. Then we use various techniques and bring in set pictures from, whatever we can steal off the internet. It's just, and some of them are rendered ourselves. And CJ, I know you've got some ideas for moving this forward in terms of video wise. Will, you've got some great ideas for YouTube. I mean, that's the thing. It's the synergy of this cosplay team that really excites me, and looking forward to where we're going to go from here in 2020. Well, actually, it'll be 2021 more than likely.
Yep.
We don't get taken out by killer wasps or anything else or some pandemic. And Cassie, where do you get your ideas?
Oh Lord.
Because you have some cool ones, like the one that's actually on the front cover of this podcast. The one where you're blue and you're a Jedi.
Ayla, her name is so hard to pronounce. It's like Ayla Sakura from Star Wars. That one, that's one of my dream cosplays that I've had on my list for years and years and years. But the only thing that set me back from doing it was the Leku, which was the headpiece. Mm-hmm. And because I always was like, how am I going to make these? Like these are going to be near to impossible to make. And I wasn't sure. I was like, and so that's why it was always put back on the burner, because I didn't know how I was going to manage to make those. And so finally, when I decided I wanted to cosplay as her, one of my friends that has cosplayed that specific character, she said, finally gonna get some new Leku in for my Ayla cosplay. I'm probably gonna sell my old ones. And I was like, ooh.
Yay.
And so, exactly. And so I messaged her and I was like, how much you want for them? And she was like, give me $50. I was like, give them to me. I was like, I'll take them. And so they were actually made by this lady on Etsy, and she has her own website, Twilight Pam.
Yeah,
that's all great. She does is make Leku and props like that. And so they were secondhand from her, and I repainted them, got them all ready to go, put a fresh new paint job on them, put new leather on them and everything like that. And that was one of my dream cosplays. I will say it is, compared to my cosplays with wings, that is probably one of my most uncomfortable cosplays because the headpiece is so heavy and I have so much hair that I have to stuff all of this into the headpiece and then put that latex headpiece on. And it is so much. And I think I think I've only worn that to one con, and it was Arkansas Comic-Con, and I was a guest. And I lasted for about 3 or 4 hours, and then I had to take a break and go to the hotel room and take the entire headpiece off, take my wig cap, take my hair down, everything, and just lay there because my head was hurting so bad. But it's a lot to come up with stuff. I do a lot of Googling, I do a lot of YouTubing, I do a lot of Pinterest, especially when I'm doing more of my big cosplays, because I don't even know where to start half the time. It's just in my head. So a lot of Pinterest, a lot of YouTube.
Yep.
And I mean, I have Pinterest boards that have thousands of pictures on them. So it's a lot of research that goes into it when I get something in my head.
Cool. Will, I call you the prop master. Where do you come up with your ideas for the various props? And I mean, I've seen the pictures. You are phenomenal and do a great job at it. How do you come up with these ideas?
It's not. I don't know. I see something that I say, well, I think I can make that. Or if I can't purchase it, I'm gonna attempt to build it. You know, like one of my current projects is I'm making the. You know, I have a full-size alien queen head, and so I'm building the power loader to go with it in the final. You know, from the final battle from the film Aliens.
Wow.
And I do work in metal fabrication, so I say, well, I'm gonna get my hand at building that. And so far, it's coming along well. It's just if I can't find it or buy it, I'll make it, or I'll attempt to make it. And one of the things I love doing, you know, with my Halloween shows, I like doing more set design and prop building than actual getting dressed up, which sounds weird because I love the cosplay. But so it comes from that too. I like, you know, set designs, things like that. And I am a fabricator. I work with my hands. I have engineering knowledge, so I'll attempt to make it if I can.
Okay. Well, I noticed that a lot of you guys are moving forward with not just going to the Comic-Cons, but further and forward. Like, for example, Star Trek Pathfinder. We've moved from the cons, and now we're in meme-sodes, but we're actually moving forward to other things. Paul, what future things do you have in store for Star Trek Pathfinder and their crew?
Well, Will and I's main focus is going to be putting our meme-sodes on YouTube, and that's in terms of shooting more. Actually, I want to give a shout out to Terry Tarkenton, who's Admiral Terry Tarkenton in Star Trek Pathfinder. He's made a pretty sizable investment in green screens, his uniforms, comm badges, and so forth, and props. And he's bringing in a couple other cosplayers into it. So he'll be shooting out in Killeen, Texas. And also shout out to our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Dallas. I mean, we've got, you know, it's given me so much information in terms of how naval tradition operates, and that helps with the writing. And
for those who don't know, Dr. Dallas is actually my husband.
Yeah.
He is a retired Navy senior chief, so he has full knowledge for medical, and he was a corpsman, and he has full military knowledge as well. He was in for 24 and a half years. So.
And that has been just awesome to bounce stuff off of him, you know, bounce ideas off him. But I really think we're going to move forward to a new platform as time and money permit. You know, that's really, honestly, that's the bottom line, having the time to do all this. And but again, I see us going back to the convention circuit in 2021. I have full hope that in the summer of next year, we'll be able to get back into our routine that we have.
Awesome. Cassie, I noticed that you are now in Orlando. So is this moving your cosplay forward, or is this moving you to like a dream of being a Disney princess?
Well, actually, Disney has always been a dream of mine to work at Disney, whether it be street sweeper, anything like that. I've always just want to work at Disney. And so back in, I want to say I applied in October. Yeah, I applied for Disney in October of last year for bartending, because I've been bartending for 5 years already in Texas. And so I was like, oh, that would be a good one to apply for, because it's always hard to get into. It's weird, but it is hard to get into food service at Disney World as a server or a bartender, because it's such a good job that people don't leave. Like, literally, I've met tons of waitresses and bartenders at Disney World during my vacations that have worked there anywhere from 5 to 35 years.
Wow.
And they just don't leave, and because it's such a good job. And so when I saw they were hiring for a bartender, I was like, hey, here's my foot in the door. And so I applied back in October, and I did all of my interviewing in November, because it was all over the phone interviewing. I did all my interviewing in October, and then I didn't hear anything. I got told I was put on a wait list, and they were like, a bunch of people are applying for this and interviewing for this. We're going to put you on a wait list. I'm like, okay. So I was put on a wait list, and me and my family actually went on vacation to Disney the first week of January. And we were here for vacation, and I was kind of hoping I'd get the email while I was here on vacation so I could do something. And I got the email a week and a half after we got home from vacation that said, can you start February 26th? And I was like,
wow.
Okay.
Cool. So I've moved down here the last week in February, and I've been here since then. And so far, I've had to kind of, other than all the stuff going on, I've kind of had to come to terms that my cosplaying guesting will kind of have to be put on hold for a little while.
That's going to be my next question, is how
Yeah. The guesting is definitely going to have to be on hold for a little while until I figure out how exactly, once I actually get to work full time, because I only got to work 2.5 full weeks before all this crap happened. Mm-hmm. But once I see how everything's going to work, I still plan on attending cons and, just going and attending and cosplaying and, walking around. But as in guesting, it's probably going to be a good while, not just because of the crisis, but because of other reasons. So,
right. Well, what's up there for you besides the Star Trek Pathfinder stuff? I know you had a couple other things, a couple other irons in the fire as well.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. I've got some cosplay ideas. The problem is what's the hardest thing that personally for me, and I know some other people are probably going through it, but for me, is with what's happening right now. It kind of puts a downer or a hamper on the whole creative process or your motivation, and that's something I'm personally dealing with. And I'm slowly. I mean, everyone's in that funk right now because we can't be with the people basically we love to be around and part of the community. But I'm slowly trying to get.
You kind of feed off of that feeling when you're going in and out of the cons.
Oh yeah, and so I'm slowly trying to get back into it. I just, like I said, I posted pictures the other day. I did a Negan cosplay. And we put some pictures the other night, and I love the way they turned out. And that was kind of another bump to get back into that groove. And like Paul said, when he released the latest episode of Pathfinder, it gave me that other next bump to get back into that groove and that motivation. And you kind of lose confidence when you can't do it, And so I know a lot of people are in that lull right now in the cosplay community. So I'm trying to keep myself entertained and pushing myself to do new things. In future, I plan on taking some pictures here at the East Texas High for Pathfinder to get that process moving forward. So I don't really have anything new in the works. I'm just trying to keep the momentum going right now until this is over with and the conventions do open up and it's safe to be around people. So that's where I'm at right now. And it's unfortunate, but like I said, things could be worse. I've got a great family. I got a great community. We all support each other. And, I'm trying to keep myself busy and motivated as best I can.
Awesome. Really quick, we've got about a few more minutes left. Paul, where do you come up with your ideas for Pathfinder? Because the story arcs, like I said, they have evolved immensely and have gone to like the edge of your seat sort of stuff lately. Where does it come from? Because I know from my end is I get the whole list of it and I'm like, where do you get this stuff? This is awesome.
Well, it starts out, I did a 5-year outline for where I want the whole arc to come for the whole crew. And I probably could recite by memory every Star Trek franchise series that's been out. I'm cursed with this type of memory where I visually remember exact details. And Sophia gives me grief about that all the time. Says, how can you remember that? But having all those stories in my brain that are in canon, I know where other stories could fit. Because obviously we're not playing established characters. We're playing just another Starfleet crew who've come together. We may have touched
just another Star Trek crew.
Hey, Starfleet
Pathfinder crew.
Hey, they've got hundreds of starships, bordering on, I mean,
I know. I'm just saying that we are the crew. We are
the crew of
just
Pathfinder.
another crew. We are the Pathfinder crew.
Well, I guess I say that. I just don't want a lot of fans take it personally if you try to do
I'm just giving you
another character. I mean, heck, look at all the people giving flack about the latest two people who've portrayed Spock. But, I love all of it. Sometimes the process, it's like you have a blank easel and canvas and you start painting and you change what you want to do midway through it. That's kind of how writing goes. But I have this basic outline. I want us to be from point A to point B on this episode, and I see us getting to point Z at the end of all this. And so we will be, the outline version of Never Met a Stranger is already drawn up. I'm hopefully going to get you, Will, Sophia, and Terry their parts at some point, over the summer, so you can start doing your green screen shot. And then hopefully by fall, we'll all be able to get together on location, since obviously this is, and I don't want to give any spoilers away for those people who haven't gone through the whole Pathfinder journey yet, but there'll be a lot of on location shots coming. And fortunately, it'll start cooling down because the costumes we're going to be wearing are going to be extremely hot.
The sacrifices we make.
Yeah, definitely.
To kind of piggyback on what Paul was saying is, it's kind of like, like with all three of us, if it hasn't been done but you think it should be done a certain way, you do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen, I want to see this in Star Trek. Well, it hasn't been done. Well, we're going to do it ourselves. Or I've never seen this cosplay before. I'm going to be the first one to do it. Or same thing with props. I can't buy this prop or I can't find this prop. I'm going to build it myself. So I think that motivation is what drives us too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Will, tell us about the your shoot idea that we did at your house, the restroom, the captain's bathroom.
Oh gosh, that was funny. It's something you don't normally see in Star Trek, that's for sure.
Which one about the shaving?
Yeah.
You don't normally see the bathroom scenes in Star Trek.
Well, that was funny. That was we call it guerrilla filmmaking, where we had the green screen set up in my living room, and then we started talking about, we never see the bathrooms in science fiction shows. They did show it in Babylon 5, but that was it. And so we tear the green screen around, we put the green screen all over the bathroom, and we just started winging it. He started shaving and said, no, use this. He said he wanted to use an old-fashioned shaver. I'm like, they wouldn't have an old-fashioned shaver in the future, So I gave him a prop that I built, said, use this one instead. And like I said, there was no script. It was on the fly. We took pictures, and they turned out fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's like the one you took of Trevor when they first brought Trevor in Dr. Dallas.
Right.
What we did was we actually went out in our yard and we have some logs and we had him holding an axe like he was cutting the logs. And so we take real scenes and put him in there. Oh, and then you got the Bishop the cat there, which he still needs to make an appearance.
Yeah, we got him on screen. We have him on green screen.
Yeah, for those who can't see him, Will has a cat. We call him Bishop the cat, and he's caught on green screen a couple of times. But we've only got like literally 2 minutes, about 8 minutes left. So we kind of got cut off on last time. So Cassie, where can they find you online if they'd like to get a hold of you? And hopefully your schedule will loosen up enough to do it.
Yes. They can find me on Facebook or Instagram. I also have a Twitter, but it's not as active. But Mermaid Cosplay, MERMAID_cosplay, COSPLAY 95_. And then Facebook and Twitter is just Mermaid Cosplay, no underscore, no 95.
Okay, good. Paul, where can they find you online?
Paul T. Watson, Paul T. Watson on Facebook, Star Trek Pathfinder like page on Facebook, or at STPATHFINDER at ST Pathfinder on all the social media that we're on: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Awesome. Will, where can they find you?
On Facebook, it's Will the Alien Cosplay, WIL space D apostrophe ALIEN space COSPLAY. And on YouTube, Will the Alien, WIL space D apostrophe ALIEN.
Okay, I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out for an extra part 2 on this. This is, like I said, the first time we've done a panel, first time we've done a part 2 episode. So I really appreciate you guys, and I appreciate your information, and I appreciate you guys for sharing your hearts. It was fun. It was a blast, and I just appreciate it. And thank you guys for joining us for The Journey is Real.
Thank you. Live long and prosper.
There you go. Thank you guys for joining us for The Journey is Real, where we talk to real people with real passions who share a real portion of their heart. I'm CJ Peterson of CJPetersonWrites.com. Until next time.